Hi, this is Rob Nelson from Tapping the Matrix, and I'd like to talk with you today about how EFT can change things in the body, change health conditions, physical conditions, because it really is kind of amazing. And people ask me, how does this work? Well, I'd like to tell the story first off of my friend Steve. When I was first learning EFT, I was very excited, of course. I was seeing miracles in my own life with this. This is before I even began working with clients. So one day I was going to go rock climbing with my friend Steve, and he shows up at my house. He's picking me up, and he looked terrible. He had very severe hay fever. I think this was probably May, and his eyes were red and swollen. His sinuses were swollen. He was talking like this. His nose was drippy. His throat was scratchy. He looked like a wreck. Okay, well, this is the guy who's going to be holding my rope, while we're rock climbing? I don't think so. I wasn't very comfortable with that idea. So I said, hey, Steve, why don't you just have a seat and we'll do a little tapping, Gary Craig says try it on everything. I didn't know what to expect. Well, he wasn't really that excited by the idea. He didn't want to sit down and tap with me. But, I kept thinking about him belaying me, in the rock climbing. I insisted. I said, no, I'm not going with you till we do some tapping. So finally, he relented. He sat down. He said, oh, okay. He's rolling his eyes. So we just started tapping, and even though I have these itchy eyes, these itchy eyes, this stuffy nose, this hay fever symptoms. And I think we only did a round or two, and whoosh, his symptoms were gone. They were solid gone, 100% gone. Now, I wasn't expecting that. I didn't even think that was possible. And he was astonished. He told me later, pardon my language, but he said, I thought EFT was bullshit. And I was embarrassed that you were even involved with this because it seemed so unscientific to me. Well, all of a sudden, within the space of a minute or two, his chronic hay fever symptoms, he's had this for years, are just gone. And I just want to add that they stayed gone the rest of the spring. And, I had the exact same experience a couple weeks later with a dad at the park. I took my kids to the park, and here's another guy with that hay fever profile, tap, tap, tap. Within a few minutes, his symptoms were 100% gone. I was like, well, how is that possible? How can that even happen, physically, that you'd go from like a 9 on a scale of 0 to 10 to 0 almost within seconds. Well, I started thinking about that, and I think Rupert Sheldrake, who pioneered work around the morphic fields and biomorphic fields, his ideas really hold the answer. We tend to think of our bodies as being pretty steady state. We go to bed at night, we wake up the next morning and pretty much have the same body, right? And in fact, it doesn't change much from the time we're maybe, 20 years old to 60. It's pretty much the same. And so, of course, we think of our bodies as just being solid and real. But when you think about it, our bodies are made of course, organs and bones and muscles and all. And those are made out of cells. And, of course, the cells are made up of molecules. You know where I'm going with this, right? The molecules are made up of atoms. And what are the atoms made of, Oh, subatomic particles. And what are those made of? Well, they're just sort of appearing out of nowhere. They're energy appearing out of the void. So really, what our bodies are is nothing. It's energy manifesting in the moment. These solid, steady-state bodies of ours are really manifesting moment by moment, instant by instant, out of the vacuum of space. And so what determines the form in which they are manifesting? This is where Rupert Sheldrake's work is so interesting. Because the pattern that your body is manifesting in is not really determined by your DNA. The DNA is the blueprint, but what's actually building the house? I like to give the example of this scar on my finger. Oh, you probably can't see it here. But I've had this scar since I was 13. I cut my finger on a broken bottle and had to go get stitches and all. Well, that was almost 40 years ago. So why does my body keep recreating this scar tissue? You know, there's definitely no pattern for scar tissue in my DNA, right? Of course not. So where does that pattern live? You know, obviously the cells have replaced themselves countless times over the last 40 years. And why does my body keep making scar tissue? It's not in the original plan. So where is that pattern for the scar tissue? Rupert Sheldrake would say, I think he would say, that that pattern is in the field, the morphic field that is telling my DNA how to make my body. And of course that scar was not in the original field, in the original pattern. It came about through a kind of trauma. The trauma caused a disruption in the field, and voila, I get a scar every time my body replicates itself. Now if you think about your eyes, like the cells in your eyes are replacing themselves at a frantic rate. It's just, I don't know how fast, but it's, you know, it's just about daily. So now if you need glasses, like I wear glasses when I'm driving, why on earth would your body not replicate perfect, healthy eye cells? Why would it replicate, you know, cells that are compromised so that you have astigmatism or whatever? Well, again, it has to do with a disruption in the field around your body. So there are plenty of people who have tapped away their need for glasses. When we're tapping, we're interacting with the field. You know, Gary Craig said, the cause of all negative emotions is a disruption in the body's energy system. Well, Rupert Sheldrake is saying, you know, a part of the body's energy system is the morphic field. And the way I see it now, when we're addressing any kind of physical problem in the body, we're reaching into the field, we're smoothing it out, we're hitting reset to the original perfect state, and then voila, you can see something that almost seems like a miracle, like my friend suddenly losing his hay fever symptoms within seconds. It doesn't seem possible until you start bringing in the idea of fields and how they interact with not just the cellular regeneration, but even down to the subatomic level. Whoosh, it's all happening instantaneously. So EFT is an extremely powerful tool. It's more powerful than many people give it credit for, even many people who do emotional healing. And Gary Craig's motto was try it on everything, and that's what I'm going to encourage you to do. So thank you very much, and hope this was helpful. Again, this is Rob Nelson with Tapping the Matrix. All right, thanks.